We're going to show you how to use Remotes Unlimited case CD31 to replace the case of a used remote from Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, of which these are all examples. Before you start, you need to have some tools or things available. I usually have coins, paper clip, Swiss Army knife or something like that, and maybe a slotted screwdriver available when I'm replacing cases. In this case, we'll probably just use the coin and the knife. The other thing is you should probably wash your hands before you change a remote so that you don't get oil on the interior components or the battery. And if the old remote is gritty or dirty, you may want to wipe it with a damp cloth before you start. Before you actually get started, we recommend that you look at the back of the package and the back of your old remote. On your old remote, there should be, if it's an original Chrysler product, it should have an FCC ID embossed on the back. It's hard to read them because they're quite small. In this case, the remote has FCC ID GQ43VT9T. Chrysler products that are of this shape, whether they be 3-button or 4-button, usually have an FCC ID starting with GQ4. And this replacement case will work for any 3-button Chrysler OE remote that had an FCC ID starting with GQ4. And it says so on the back. Let's open up the package. And you'll see that inside there should be one battery loose in the package, the replacement case, the insert card. Replacement case is usually attached with fugitive glue. You can get that off the case by just rubbing it with your fingers and then setting it aside. Inside, we're going to open up the old remote, and you'll see that inside the old remote, opens up the new case. Inside the new case, there's a second battery. These particular remotes use 2 batteries, and in order to keep the 2 batteries from touching each other in the package, we put one inside the case and leave one outside the case, like that. Now on the insert card inside, there are step-by-step instructions for replacing the case on one of these remotes and other valuable information, so you should probably look at that at some point. We'll go ahead and use this Dodge Ram remote and change the replacement case on it. On all of these Chrysler GQ remotes, there's a little slot to the side at the bottom, and you can fit a dime into that slot and just pry up and down, back and forth until you get it to separate. And once it's separated, just use your fingers to pull it apart. You don't need to take the key ring off if you don't want to. And what you'll see inside is the battery is attached to the back of the case, the 2 batteries, which are stacked on top of each other, attached to the back of the case. And the circuit board and button pad are in the inside of the front of the case. Now in this situation, you'll see that there's a circuit board inside the bladder, and when you take those apart, you'll see that there's also a separate button contact pad that looks like that. Note when you take it out that the rounded portions are facing toward the button pad itself, and that the concave portions are facing toward the circuit board. You'll need to use that in the new case, so put that aside. And the circuit board, you'll see, has 4 button contacts up and down, of which only 3 are used for this particular remote. So what we'll do first is we'll take the button pad from the replacement case, we'll take this button contact from inside, set it inside in that fashion, set the circuit board inside like that, trying to handle the circuit board primarily by its edges so that we don't damage a component. And then we'll set that inside the new case. You may have to press. I think it works best generally to start by placing the bottom in and then the top. It's a tight fit in this case, very tight fit. Let's see if we can get it. Okay, now it's sliding. When it slides down, you want it to slide down so that the bladder fits against the front of the case kind of uniformly all the way around, and that the buttons show through the front of the case. Now, with the old case, we need to take the batteries, pick the batteries up by just sliding something underneath and popping them up out. We'll set the old batteries aside, and you'll see we have this battery contact in the back of the old case, and we need to move that to the new case. Before we do it, we'll go ahead and get that second battery out of the new case. And when you look at this, what you'll see is that there's a little plastic post sitting right down at the base of it. And what you need to do is pry the battery contact off of that post gently. You don't want to break the battery contact. And the way to do that is to start at the top, get your knife blade underneath, keep it as flat as possible, and put the point of the knife right by the one side of the post, pry a little bit, then flip it over to the other side of the post, pry a little bit on that side, and go back and forth like that until you've pried it up off the post without bending the battery contact too much. It should pop up at some point. Once it's popped up from an edge like that, you can just lift it out. Now we're going to want to put that onto the back of the new case in the same orientation or fashion. It's got to sit right down in the base, and there's a post on this that it'll sit on as well. Let me see if I can get it. Now when you kind of get it in position with your hand, you can use, again, the end of the knife to just push it down onto that post so that it snaps into position. This is the most challenging part of changing its replacement case, is getting it into position on that post. Again, if you press on each side, it'll go down without getting too bent up. Once you've got that in position, in that fashion, place the new batteries. And in this case, these are CR2016 batteries, and again, you need 2 of them. And they both get placed into this position with the plus side up. I actually recommend, my hands were washed before this, but I actually recommend that you handle and push down with like a Kleenex or something to avoid getting oil on them. And now the back of the case is ready, and we're just going to flip the front of the case over the back, get it in the right position before pressing together, and then press together until we hear a snap like that. And voila, you've now got your replacement case on your 3-button Chrysler Dodge or Jeep remote.